PREPS.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. Our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight we've got a special guest. We've got Wylie head football coach Clay Martin.
Yeah, and this is going to be a fun one for me. I've known Coach Martin for a long time. When I got out to Abilene in 2007, my first beat for the newspaper when we worked there was with the Wylie football team. So I've known him for going on 16 years now. And obviously it's been fun working with him as the defensive coordinator back then and baseball coach, and now the head coach. And he's really seems to have things rolling at Wylie now. They had their first 10-win season and deep playoff run last year as a Class 5A program. This year they're off to a 2-2 start, off back-to-back really impressive wins over Lubbock Cooper and last week over Stephenville. So it's going to be fun to talk to Coach Martin about just the progress his team is making, what he's seen from that group, and kind of what he thinks this group is capable of.
All right, before we get going with tonight's show, we need to thank a couple of our sponsors. We'll start with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breckenridge, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle new or used, give Rob a shout. Call him at 254-559-2266. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Again, that's Rob Durham at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. And before we get going, we want to remind you, YouTubers, to please hit the subscribe button. Along with that, please hit the bell so you'll get notifications each and every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new Wednesday night podcast. So please hit that subscribe button, won't you please? We appreciate it.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump into today's show. We'll talk a little more about Wylie and with Coach Martin here in a little bit. We'll start with the game you were at last week, the Big Country game of the week. A tough one for Comanche. They suffered their first loss to what I think we both knew was a really strong Toller program. Just what did you see in that matchup?
I saw that I completely underestimated how good Toller really was, coming off that blowout loss to Dallas Christian, a private school. And the writing was really on the wall when Toller went into that game as a 26-point underdog, which tells you how good that Dallas team, that private team, really is. As good as Toller was to come in as a 26-point dog, that loss was meaningless. And I should have recognized it as completely meaningless. I tried to recognize it as such, but I still looked at Comanche as the favorite, but it just didn't work out that way. Toller came in with a dominating defensive effort and beat Comanche with a combination of great defense and big plays. And granted, Sawyer Wilkerson was out, but really the key to that Comanche offense, I mean, Wilkerson's been great. He has been. But the key to that Comanche offense this year has been that push up front from that offensive line. And the Welch kid at quarterback also has been a big contributor as well. He played that night. They just ran into a very good Toller football team, and there's no other way to describe it. That Toller team is outstanding.
Yeah, and things won't get any easier for Comanche this week. They're hosting Albany, which got them a big win last week in a really high-profile area game as well. 27-14 over Holly in a matchup of defending state champions. So that was obviously a fun one as well. A big win for Albany, which is kind of wild. They seem to be following up that state championship season with another team that looks like they could have that kind of potential.
Yeah, they do look like they have that potential. They're off to a 4-0 start. They're looking great. And speaking of fun games, you had one over in Stephenville. You had your eye on that game for quite a while, and you got exactly what you expected.
Well, I expected a really good football game. I did not expect it to go the way it did. Wylie was dominant early in that game. They were up 28-10 at halftime. Stretch that lead to 35-10 early in the third quarter, scoring off their second interception of the game. And then it kind of became what I expected it to. And Stephenville made a roaring comeback as they had the previous week in a big win for them. But this week they weren't able to complete it. They were able to cut it to 35-32 on 3 consecutive touchdown passes from Ryan Gafford to Tristan Gentry. But once they cut it to 3, a Wylie offense that had really done not a whole lot in the second half, put together a long scoring drive, got 2 big third down conversions to keep it going to go back up 10 points, and they were able to hold on from there. But it was a really, really good game for Wylie. Their second in a row over a really quality opponent. I thought this was more. This I thought was the best game they've played offensively all year. Even though they had that kind of lull early in the second half where they were kind of trying to protect that lead, when they needed big drives, they got them. And in the first half, they were coming up with big plays. So this was a big game for the offense, and the defense continues to be opportunistic. That was a big deal for them. As far as Stephenville goes, they're going to be fine. Their record at this point is 2-2, but that's a team that's going to be really good. They're very explosive. One really tough issue for them. They
You
had a
don't have
couple.
those guys. You can have those guys beat until the final horn.
No, that's how it
The
works. I
final
mean,
whistle. They're not beat.
a 21-point lead, 20, 25-point lead it doesn't mean much when you're playing them. But on a serious note, Stephenville did have a couple of really tough injuries in that game. Crease Brister, a 4-year starting offensive lineman, a future Division I player, went down in the second quarter with a knee injury. He was not in pads at the end of the game, so I guess we'll have to see just how severe that was. And then the big one came right before halftime. Linebacker and captain Rowdy Markland, a really important part of that defense, went down and was on the field for a long time. He had to be taken off the field on a stretcher, which is obviously very scary anytime that happens. Fortunately, he was able to give the thumbs up to the crowd and to his teammates on the way out. So it looks like major spinal cord injury was averted there, but just a very scary moment, obviously, and something that everyone was worried about until they got word in the fourth quarter from the public address announcer that there was good news from the hospital and that it looked like he was going to be fine. But just a really scary moment, one that you never like to see, and obviously everyone in the stadium on both teams and both sets of stands were really excited. A huge ovation when the news came out that he was going to be okay. So I was obviously very relieved as well. You never want to see something like that happen, but yeah, that's going to be something that Stephenville's going to have to overcome, and they're going to have to kind of move on from. But those are two very important parts of their team.
All right. And with that, it's just about time to bring on Wylie football coach Clay Martin. Y'all set?
Yeah, it looks like he's ready. Let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Wylie head football coach Clay Martin. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Coach, big win at Stephenville. It's a non-district win, but I get the feeling there was some importance to it. It proved a lot of things. Can you talk a little bit about that? It's about as important a non-district game as you could have.
Yeah, I think they're all big wins, obviously, in non-district or district. But the fact that I think we're improving is probably the most important thing. And maybe made some jumps on Friday, and came away from a hard-fought victory.
And that's 2 in a row of those. I mean, 2 really gritty road wins in a row. Big 1-point win at Lubbock Cooper before the one last week over Stephenville. Just what have you kind of learned about your team? What do those wins say about your team? You kind of see some of that toughness developing.
Yeah, we really felt like we hadn't executed very well in the first 2 weeks, and the kids showed a lot of composure, a lot of poise to go back to work, and thought we've done a better job in the execution part, and then felt like the effort's been there since day one, and we fought hard through all the games.
Coach, on the subject of toughness, you guys have forced 7 turnovers over the last two ball games. That's a huge stat. If you guys can keep going like that, that's going to pay some dividends going down the stretch.
Yeah, I've been opportunistic, I think is the best word. We work really hard on creating those situations and turnovers, but to talk about that and then to actually make the play each time we've had a chance to pick a ball off or to scoop and score, have been able to do that, and that says a lot about our kids.
And along those lines, you and I talked kind of after that game, and you said you thought your team was playing faster on that side of the ball. Just how much of that do you think was maybe a learning curve when you change, when you transition from Coach Hill's defense to what Coach Cates has brought? How much of it was kind of their learning curve in those early games to kind of get y'all to this point?
Oh, I don't think there's any question, that has a big role in the whole thing. It's one thing to practice, but when you get out there in a game to be able to execute a new scheme, and I think our kids feel a lot more comfortable in what we're doing, and have a lot more belief, and it's just allowed them to play a lot faster.
Coach, you talk about Bear Ming and the job that he's doing at quarterback, settling into the position and leadership role.
Yeah, a young man that has come in, and a great student of the game, has spent a lot of time and effort into learning the offense, and is just getting better each and every week. A guy that's there every day, and and works hard. And, I think, like you say, it's becoming a leader.
And Coach, one of the real interesting things about kind of what y'all done the last 2 weeks is I remember sitting with you over at the stadium 2 or 3 weeks ago, kind of talking about just the adversity this team has been going through with all of the injuries to key players and just a number of those types of things. To see this team kind of fight through some of those things, see you develop some depth through some of those things, just how neat has it been to see this team, experience success despite, some things going against it early in the season?
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we have had some adversity and in the injury column for sure, and are still dealing with some of that. And our kids have just kept fighting and keep playing, and whoever's in there is just played as hard as they can, and to be able to overcome that adversity and continue to play and to actually get better has been a huge step for us.
Coach, closing out non-district with San Angelo Central. Um, how close are you to where you want to be at this point in the season, heading into that ball game?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, we still got to clean up a ton of stuff. I think this is a great time for this matchup. Central, a very explosive offense that likes to throw the football, and maybe a little different than anything we've faced so far. And to have this challenge at this point in the year, I think is perfect for us. And just looking forward to see how we respond.
And that's your last one to get ready for what looks to be again a tough district. Obviously, Ryder. Plainview's off to a great start, 4-0. Cooper will be improved by the time that game comes around. Just talk about this district race. Obviously, I've got one more to play in non-district play before you get there, but it looks like it's going to be another tough district slate.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think our district will be super strong, and I think probably stronger than it was last year, and a district that'll be competitive week in and week out. And a lot of teams that are going to be fighting. I think teams that are improved from where they were a year ago, and hopefully we're one of those too.
Coach, when Wylie was in 4A, it was an annual expectation to get to the playoffs, maybe win a district championship and have a nice run in postseason play. You jumped to 5A, and there was an adjustment period there. Well, guess what? You're awfully close to reestablishing that expectation. People are talking about Wylie football again a lot. How important is it for you to get to that point again?
Yeah, no question. That's a something that obviously everyone in the Wylie community, is maybe expected each and every year, and to be back to that point, that's how we feel like we are. Feel like we're back to that spot, and our expectations are high, and our goals are pretty lofty, and that's the way it should be.
And last one, and this is kind of a broader deal, but you've been a part of that Wylie program for a long time now. In one way or another, you've been associated with almost all of that program's most successful teams and moments. Just what has that ride been like for you, and what has it meant to you to get to have your first head coaching job at a place that you've been at for so long and been such a big part of?
Yeah, 30 something years is a lot of years, and I had three sons that all played football here at Wylie, and a lot of great memories throughout the year. I have guys on our coaching staff that actually played here that I coached, and Coach Kincaid was the first quarterback. He was a junior quarterback when I first started at Wylie, and just to see the growth that has happened, being part of such a special program under Coach Sandifer, and and then now being in this role, it's a special place, and something that means a lot to me.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. We know you're busy, so we appreciate every minute that you give us. We'll be keeping an eye on you very closely the rest of the year and stay in touch with you. Good luck.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
And that was Wylie head football coach Clay Martin. And Dan, Wylie, just over the last couple of weeks, has shown more upward movement than just about every other team in the big country. They've really improved. This team is they're going to be just fine down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think one thing this also shows you is how good Brownwood is, that they were able to kind of do it there early in the season. And obviously Lubbock Monterey dramatically improved over last year. So they've played a very tough schedule, but I do think that their level of play the last 2 weeks has been much higher than it was the first two. And I think this was a team that you always kind of expected to need a little bit of time to gel and some things. They have a new defensive coordinator, some new coaches in certain positions. I think there was always going to be some a learning curve, but I do think you're starting to see this team come together, and you're starting to see Wylie reach a level at the 5A level now, where they're kind of getting back to that point where any team that has Wylie on their schedule has to, be ready for that game, because this is becoming the program that you expect Abilene Wylie to be. So it was a fun getting Coach Martin on here to talk about this team, and I look forward to see what this group has in store for the rest of the year.
All right. And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. Before we do that, we want to remind you, we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a 6-month semi-annual subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month. That's $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So make sure you check those out. As you scroll through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly we take a lot of photos from these games we are at, and we try to get out to a whole lot of games. That's something that we really enjoy doing, and something we are very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.